What's your name? Who are you?
My name is Stephen Armstrong. I'm from Manchester currently, but I'm originally from Cumbria.
Okay. And how would you describe yourself creatively?
Well, first thing that comes to mind is lazy. I like the idea of writing the material and then actually kind of doing the admin of getting the gigs to go and actually do the performances is something that I maybe jot down, but I always carry a notebook with me, so I'm always like looking to write little ideas down or little notes and stuff. That's it really. Tried the odd thing out on Facebook and Twitter, but tend to not be that. I just tend to be always writing, always thinking.
So would you class yourself as more of a writer than a performer then?
No, because I prefer performing. The writing thing, I do improv as well, and what I like doing most in my set is I like to put a bit in every set that I do. I like it to be new, and because it can get not so much boring for me, but if I'm doing the same stuff, then it's about keeping it fresh and original, and sometimes I struggle with that, and it's about making sure that it's as fresh and interesting for me as it is for the audience, and I think that's what helps me be a better performer, is adding a little bits of improvisation into the thing just to make it special. I like to make it feel like the gig I do, nobody will ever see that gig again.
So would you class yourself as more of an improviser or a stand-up?
I'd say I tend more towards improvisation because the actual writing down of the material is something that I get a bit tired of, because not tired of, but I prefer to live in that moment, so I like that freshness, which is counted against me because I don't do enough work. I just rely on what improv chops I've got and a basic sort of set thing, but yeah, that's how I approach it.
And what draws you towards comedy performance?
I'm broken inside, and I thought about it, and comedy's given me the greatest things and the worst things I've ever had. I'm hungry for that attention, but I'm fearful of not being good enough. So it's kind of like picking, for me sometimes in my worst moments, it's like picking at a scab of like, I know I need to pick at it and I need to do it. It's almost like a habit that I'm addicted to doing it, because I just enjoy it so much.
And what is it that you get from comedy performance that you don't get from, say, doing drama or poetry?
I'd say joy, and because part of why I do stand-up is because I have mental health issues and I can be quite down. So for me, making people laugh is one of the most difficult things, because people naturally don't want to laugh and make an idiot of themselves, whereas I think with poetry and drama, people are much more likely and they're much more comfortable to sit there and take it in and do the strokey beard kind of thing, whereas I think with comedy, it's that moment where you get somebody where they live and they're not aware of they you know, sometimes it's the ones who will sit there and they look like they're desperately trying not to laugh, and then you do something and you just get them and they don't know, and then without thinking they just naturally giggle. It's just fantastic. So yeah.
And do you think that there is a connection between comedy performance and mental health?
I think for me it is, and for a lot of people that I know, there is. I think that the desire to stand alone on stage and get a room full of strangers to pay attention to you, there's some kind of need or desire, and I think part of it is the mental health aspect of it. But I think it also helps, because I think that sometimes gigs can be like therapy. It's like opening up and being open to people. It helps.
So do you think that comedy and mental health is probably a connection that most comedy performers have?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that not only the people that I know, but also I think the history's littered with comedians, sort of Tony Hancock, Sid James and all that kind of stuff. They were deeply broken people as well, and I think that sometimes that's what they look for, is the clown.
Who's photo bombing, lads? You know who it is.
What do you think about mental health? Which is what we're chatting about.
It's bad, yeah.
No, seriously, I've got plenty of issues with mental health. I've been divorced twice and it's terrible. It's really fucking affected me.
And have you found any like avenues to kind of channel that?
Northern way.
Have I? What, sorry?
Have you found any avenues to kind of channel your like thoughts, your feelings, emotions, mental health issues that you've had?
Not really, no. It's just, I feel like I've got bipolar because I'm so up, so down, up and down all the time.
And have you gone to see like a professional about?
Never.
And what do you think it is that stops you from going to see someone like that?
Stubborn.
In what way? What do you
Me
mean?
personally, I'm so stubborn.
But what do you think it is that stops you?
Because I can't talk to anybody.
But you just spoke to me for like 5 minutes.
But I can't.
Yeah. I think that is how. See, that's why we're both excellent improvisers, Tom.
We
You
both-
yes-handed, and I just shut down.
So, the next question was going to be, so, what is it in you, do you think, that makes you want to perform in front of all those people?
I don't know. I feel at home on stage when it's going well, and when you build a rapport with the audience. It's just, it's great, and it's helped me with my mental health because, like, gigs now, bad gigs, affect me less, but I'll never stop doing it because I just love that joy of being able to get on stage and somebody that you've never met before and you're never going to meet again, just laughing and like, I suppose if you go kind of deep, I'm an only child from a single parent family. My dad passed away when I was very young. I've always wanted that belonging and affirmation and that kind of feeling of being worth something. And if I can make a stranger laugh at something that I thought of, then I must be decent. It's that weird kind of, it must give me some kind of worth because like people who don't even know me, simply after 10 minutes of meeting me, laugh and find me funny. So when I go home and sit in my room and bag on myself, then I can't be that bad because strangers like me. So that's generally it.
So do you think that feeling, that want for acceptance, do you think you're after that from strangers, or do you think that you're after that from a community such as the comedy one? And
It's strangers because I think that the one thing I've noticed is that my experience of the comedy circuit is there are lots of people who know exactly how much other people struggle and reach out and help them, and that is one of the most beautiful things about the comedy circuit. But there are some people on the comedy circuit who I think actively seek to manipulate and use weaknesses, and I think that it's strangers for me. I want promoters to book me and I want other comedians to rate me, but I've never been one of those comedians I don't want to be one of those comedians who just enjoys playing comedian rooms because comedians get me. Because the thing is that again, I try, if I have a bad gig or if anything goes wrong, I try not to externalise it and say that it was the fault of the strangers, it was the fault of the people who turned up that I wasn't funny. Unless you are gigging to a bunch of Klansmen, then generally speaking, if you're not doing what they like, then it might not be anybody's fault. It might just be that you're not kind of connecting. And I think sometimes comedians almost weirdly get more joy out of performing to other comedians because it feels like an internal secret society. And if I wanted to be that, I'd be a magician.
Okay, so you mentioned like highs and lows.
Yeah.
So do you think that comedy intrinsically comes with the lows as well as the highs?
I think it does, and I think that it becomes a very lonely thing, especially if you get to the further you go up into it. And it's why I think a lot of comedians, a lot of named TV and famous comedians fall foul of a number of issues, but it's because it must be difficult. You get up at 4 o'clock, you get up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you prep for your show, you go and do an hour and a half's work where a room full of hundreds, thousands of people just are hanging at every word you say, and then 20 minutes later you're in a hotel room on your own and there's nobody there. There's nobody to kind of turn to and go, hey, this is great. And it's that tears of the clown thing is that everybody thinks that you're this great, wonderful, happy, joyful, wonderful person, when essentially you're not. What you are is you're just like everybody else. And it's just, I think it is a very dangerous, that's why a lot of, one of the comedians, getting into comedy, one of the comedians that really confirmed to me that this is what I wanted to do was a guy called Mackenzie Taylor. And he did a show in Manchester. I went to see a show in Manchester, and his show in Manchester was about the year before he had gone to an ex-partner's gig, and he'd drunk a bottle of Jack Daniels to try and kill himself in the toilets. He'd survived, and the show was about that, and he'd turned his life around, and he'd got a new girlfriend and all this kind of stuff. And then 4 months after that show, he killed himself. So to me, it highlighted that he'd got this hour-long show, and it was the first comedy show I'd ever been to that I cried and laughed at the same time. And he seemed like he'd got everything together again. He'd gone into this dark place, and he'd got back out again, and he'd got all this good stuff. His partner was a mental health nurse. Everything was going for him, and then just it came back. And I think that's the thing is that it's a very dangerous game, and it's a little bit like I said before about picking a scab. Sometimes it's like playing with a loaded revolver, because you love it, and I love it, and I love it, and I love it, and then you have a bad gig, and you go back home, and you can't really talk to people. If somebody works in an office, you can't go. It's like when you have a tough day in the office, because it's not. It's like when I go home after a gig and I've had a bad gig, it's like a room full of people have said that they just hate me and everything I stand for, and it's like everything I am, they've rejected. But on the flip side, when you go in there in a room full of strangers, and when people say nice things to you, and when they come up to you at the end and they say, oh, I really like that, it's just so nice when people go out their way, because they don't have to do that. They came out to a pub tonight some of them didn't even know what was going on, and that's the great thing about comedy, is winning them over.
Okay, so I think this is probably the final question.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned like even at all rungs of the ladder, there's massive highs and massive lows.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be like within a space of 10-20 minutes.
Yeah.
What is it that you want from comedy? Do you want those massive highs, those massive lows, just the highs, just the lows, all encompassing, or do you want something other than the main avenue that most comedians seem to go down?
I want to make my full-time wage and life out of performing. I don't have an idea. I don't desperately yearn to be on the Apollo. I don't yearn to see my name in lights. I don't yearn to do anything. I just yearn to be able to provide for me and my family.
Fantastic. How was that, mate?